Welcome back to another episode of the Cactus Atlas. It's another workday in Yellowstone National Park. Poor us. We've got some campgrounds to film, but lots of stops in the northwest portion of the park to check out as well. Hop in and let's get going. Like last week's episode, which was yesterday for me, I have campgrounds to film, this time inside of Yellowstone National Park, and I'm focusing on the NPS managed campgrounds that you could go to recreation.gov and make a reservation for inside the national park, basically. But I have a lot of stops scheduled in between all of those.
Toward North Rim Drive.
Lots of varying things to see and do inside of Yellowstone, just small, quick stops that chances are, if you're like me, if you come to visit here, things you probably wouldn't have time to do when you're trying to compete with things like Old Faithful and all of the other, like Norris Base and all of that stuff. So I'm hoping that this is the lesser known stuff, although I wouldn't say it's like unknown or secret, just to be clear, but stuff that I would never probably take time to see on my quick in and outs here. So I got routes plotted to where I'm going. I've got a mental map of what I'm doing, and I think we're good. So we are leaving. I got gas.
Then turn right onto Grand Loop Road.
Gas was $4.29 a gallon for 89 octane this morning, right over here. And got some coffee and a Danish to start the day off. And now we're on the Grand Loop Road, which is aptly named because I'm doing kind of a grand loop, although I don't know if I'm doing the full grand loop.
16 miles.
And our first stop is going to be not a campground, but I think it should be a hot spring overlook. Last night was my first night to spend the night here in Yellowstone at Canyon Campground, right across from Canyon Village of Xanterra managed campground, and I had a fantastic night. Even made me a campfire, which you could see on the last episode if you missed it. It did get cold though. Oh boy, did it get chilly. I would say in the low 40s is my estimate. I didn't check the temperature at the peak, but it was chilly. It still is actually, so I'm wearing warm clothes, but I have a change of clothes to put shorts and a t-shirt on later if I need to. Not a lot of cars out this way compared to other sections of the park for sure. Here's a nice opening to enjoy. And this road is closed in the winters. I want to say December to April or something like that. I imagine it's just covered in snow a lot of the time at the elevation, at the higher elevation. These are really pretty areas, and you can actually, off in the distance, we'll probably get a chance to see like steam rising from the landscape in places from geothermal features. So I have a pretty good spread of stop, campground. So if you watched our episode, our last episode, you know, the first part was very campground tour heavy. Kind of do the same thing today where I'm not going to film or talk as I'm driving through the campgrounds, but I'll summarize what I thought, maybe overlay some of the footage. But one thing that's good to mention, I'm plugging a lot, is we have another YouTube channel and an app called CampVue, CampVue. CampVue, both on YouTube, and campvue.com is the web address of the CampVue app. And on there you can see all of the fruits of my labor from these campground tours, what I call campground drive-throughs, because I drive through with cameras mounted to the top of my truck and get various angles of campsites so people planning a camping trip can get intel in advance to check to see, is the site private? Is the driveway good for a RV? And you can read other people's or other campers' reviews, or write your own reviews of various campsites to help the community. So be sure to check out CampVue. But that's essentially what I'm doing today, and what this whole trip is really supporting. It wasn't to come make Cactus Atlas videos, although that's a side effect of that, and a good one, but I came to basically get content to celebrate the release of my new app, to expand the CampVue catalog, which we already had close to 100 campsites in the on the CampVue YouTube channel, and now we're adding all of that to the app, which I'm very proud of. I really like it a lot. I think it's going to help people. So sometimes on these road trips I'm just traveling to and fro and making videos. Other times I'm plopped down in the area, had some leisure time to make a video, and then some days, like today and future days, I'm gonna be mixing it with doing my CampVue tours, so you're kind of going to work with me days, but trying to keep it fun and show you some part of the world that you may not have seen in the meantime. So don't fret, it's not all about campgrounds here and campsites on today's show. It's just explaining the context within which I'm working today, making you this video. And look at that view. Enough about campgrounds. Look at that view. All right. We're gonna stop here. There's people seeing me film, so let's see if they stop. So far, nobody's stopping. But I'm getting my first eyes on this vast wilderness out here, and it's vast. I imagine hidden inside the forest and this entire landscape that we're seeing, how many bear do you think are roaming about? How about wolves? They have wolves here too. I'm sure somewhere in our field of view, deep inside, there's gotta be some critters like that. But I still haven't seen any yet. Still haven't seen any yet. Sometimes if you can see the edge of the woods, you might see something once in a while. Here come some more cars. Let's see if I trick them into stopping. Nobody wants to stop at this one, I guess. Oh, we got one. We got one taker. We got one taker. They're scoping it out. They're not sure. They're not sure. Because I'm not pointing my camera. Oh, we got two. We got two. If you don't know what I'm talking about, and you never heard of the Yellowstone traffic jam, basically, as you're driving around the park, you'll come across just crazy groups of cars just parked blocking the road. Like, people will literally stop in your lane in front of you, turn their car off, get out, and act like madmen and women trying to take pictures of an elk or a deer, or if you're lucky, a bear, a bison, things like that. And all sense goes out the window. Kids are running across the street. Everybody's like in a mad rush and doing very illegal things, technically. I guess I don't think you're supposed to park in the road and just stop and block cars, but my running joke is every time I get out to see an overlook and I start filming, people think you see something, so they stop. Some will even ask, oh, what do you see? What do you see? And then, you know, and some kind of just drive by and try to sense if you actually are filming something. We probably have a better chance at seeing a Yellowstone traffic jam than actual animals. Well, if you see a traffic jam, you'll probably see the animal to go with it, but Usually I don't stop at those, I don't participate. I protest that. But anyway, Yellowstone traffic jam if you never heard of it. They do it in Glacier National Park too, I found out. And now we're gonna continue. I think the next stop is my first campground, Tower Fall Campground. So I mounted all of the cameras to the truck and configured them, tested them. So I should be ready to rock and roll and just drive on through. Drive on through to the other side. And this view coming off this side of the mountain is absolutely beautiful. Got really nice views from the cab of the truck. Very nice views. Look at that. It's hard to think we're sitting on top of a giant super volcano in this region. One that could disrupt lives for almost everybody if it ever fully erupted. It wouldn't be pretty. Right, we're kind of coming down to the bottom of the mountain now that we were on, and I'm only about 3.5 miles away from campground number 1, Tower Falls. I think it's an easy one. I think it's just a single loop campground. Small, medium, small, I don't know. Maybe just small. So this one should be a good warm-up, hopefully. The next two should be a good warm-up. Then Mammoth Campground, I think, is going to be the challenge of the day, followed by I think Indian Creek is another large one too. So I'm going to stop recording and get ready for CampVue time. So I'll tell you what I think of it when I complete it. All right, so that was Tower Falls Campground. There's a general store right out here for convenience, and the campground was pretty cool. It's built into a pretty steep hillside. So what I could tell though, driving through it, is they seem to have tent pads in most of the sites, maybe all of them, I don't know. They were pretty small. So like for my size tent, it might be pushing getting it into one of those. But didn't really seem really RV friendly, more tent friendly than anything, small tent friendly. But overall, I liked it, and we are at an elevation of 6,650 feet. The loop lets you out back where we already came from, so we get to take a look at the general store again. I think there's some waterfall or something over here that maybe we should stop and see. Even though there's a lot of people here, I say we do it. Also, we do it. I think it was one of my planned stops anyway. We'll see what all the hubbub is about here. We're gonna drive. I don't think this is one way, is it? But most people are probably coming in from this side. We'll see if we can find parking. Hopefully I can find parking, I don't know. There's plenty of parking down this way. Oh yeah. I was like, everybody seemed to be going crazy looking for a spot up here, but it's just that they don't want to park far away. All right, well, one campground down. It's probably getting close to the time where it's going to be too hot for all of my warm clothes wearing. I don't know how far we have to walk to go see this though, but whatever. All right, so now we're walking over to, I think an overlook is what we're looking for. On my spreadsheet, I called it Tower Falls and Yellowstone River Overlook. So we'll see. Not really in the market for a really big hike, but I only gave myself about 15 minutes here, which means on my studies it must not be that long to do, but I do see people walking kind of a ways. We'll find out. It's only 500 feet to walk. I think I can see the Yellowstone River down there. I see a river, assuming that's what it is. Anybody see any critters down there? Must be off to the left. I can hear something. So I imagine that was the Tower Falls. I think there's a overlook to see the Yellowstone River from down there. A little bit closer, but it didn't seem like that close, but that was pretty cool. It's not as good as the one from yesterday, but I enjoyed it. All right, we did it. We saw one of our planned stops, Tower Falls Overlook. And it was okay. It was good. I mean, there's never a waterfall that I don't like seeing, but it wasn't as grandiose as other ones like the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone that we saw in the last episode, or something like Shoshone Falls and Twin Falls, Idaho. This is a picturesque one, but pretty crowded little overlook, but we got it done. I got my spot in short order and got in and out. So now we're heading towards our next campground, although I do have another planned stop, something called Calcite Springs Overlook. We got about 15 minutes from now, and I don't have directions anymore, so but I know the main routes and where I'm going, and there's good signage in here, so we should be, famous last words, right? But we should be okay. I think that waterfall, there's a creek we just drove over. I think that's the creek that feeds that waterfall we just saw, Tower Creek. And now we know why they call it, and there's these two hoodoos near the waterfall. I wonder if those are the towers, or the tower, whatever it got its name for. But anywho, ooh, there's a really nice view of the river down below. I don't think it's gonna be obstructed from here though, but whoa, that was a sneaky little drop off there. This is a pretty area actually. There's like canyons back here and like sheer rock walls. Wonder how sturdy that is. And you've got people enjoying views. It looks kind of full there to me. Well, there's a spot I could have parked at, but we got a lot to do today, so we're gonna just stick with my plan and not do too much extra. Unless we get an opportunity like this one, and maybe, what is this? Oh, wait, Calcite Springs, 0.25 miles. I don't think this is the overlook that I had planned, but what I will do, maybe we can scout it out from here and see it. Well, there we go, there's the Yellowstone River, carving through that canyon down there. That is deep, but you should be able to get a view of it now. You can hear the raging waters down there, and the waterfall feeds into that from Tower Creek. How pretty. Oh, this is the view right here. That's a beautiful view. How fun would it be to raft down that? What a view though. And all those hoodoos, or what appear to be hoodoos. All right, we did it. Another overlook marked off the list of probably hundreds of thousands of overlooks in America. Somebody should make a YouTube channel that's called All Overlooks. Every state. Overlooks. Alright, is this the Calcite Springs overlook, or did we... That's what it says, Calcite Springs. This is the one that I had planned on stopping at. Okay, we're gonna do it. I want to see some Calcite Springs, man. I don't know if there's any, if that indicates any kind of geothermal activity, but we'll see. You've got weird eyes, but you're majestic and I know very smart. And you guys can be very devious too. I've heard you've stolen people's keys before. Nah, not you necessarily. I'm not blaming you, but some of your cousins. What do you gotta say for yourself? That's what I said. He's taken aback. I speak your language, don't I? Another short walk, 280 feet. All right, I think I found our overlook. It's not too crowded either. Yeah. I'm guessing this gets its name from that white material, which I assume is calcite. But it adds a lot of nice dramatic look to this landscape. What a view this is, actually. We'll walk down this way a little bit and see. We'll look back upstream where we were, where we came from. There's more overlooks down here. This is a beautiful section of the park I wouldn't have known, to be honest. It's definitely worth your time if you've got spare time and want to enjoy the beautiful views of what I believe are the Yellowstone River and these canyons and like these dramatic rock walls that are kind of hoodoo-like. I don't know what the term would be for those. And then at the top you almost have very geometric looking columns. I don't know if that's basalt. I was actually correct. That is basalt. The remnants of a volcano from approximately 1.3 to 1.5 million years ago. So it kind of reminds me of that same cooling that basalt does, like at the Devil's Post Pile, if you remember our old video from that. It kind of has that vibe to it. I think the next stop is going to be another campground, so we'll knock another one out as we enjoy this view on the way back. Definitely come up. This is the best view right here, probably. I don't know what it's like up there, but it might be selfie worthy. That's a nice view. I'm not sure how well you see it, but that water is crystal clear. I can even see through it and see rocks on the floor bottom. Not have good enough eyesight to see fish swimming in there, but I bet there are. But that'd be a really fun stream to fish in. I don't know if that's one of the ones that's allowed or in the park. They have some restrictions, but that'd be a fun day. Wow, this was definitely worth a stop. Probably my favorite stop of the day so far. That was fascinating. I actually enjoyed seeing those basalt columns up there. It's just neat to see the same phenomenon that you see in other places, to show that it's not really unique to just one place. That's one of the frequent comments we get when we do little shorts or reels or videos on geologic formations, or people want to try to tell us, to mansplain to us that it's a unique feature only to that area, created either some pseudoscientific explanation, things like that. But there's evidence of more of that, it's not as uncommon, I think, as people attribute it to being. And I've read of many other things. The reason why they cool in the columns is in nature, think hexagons are what they are, is the most efficient, stable shape that things will kind of resolve to in nature. So as that lava cools, it forms that hexagonal shape, is the very simpleton explanation of it. But you would expect, if that were to be true, you would see that repeated in different places, and here we see it repeated. So it's an interesting observation. Anyway, onward to the next campground, Slough Creek, which I think is one of the smallest ones, and I don't even know if the whole thing is open. Recreation.gov makes it look like there's a whole half of the campground that's not reservable right now, probably because they have it shut down for the season or something. So this might be one of those where I only get to film half of it. One of my frustrations as a CampVue drive-through filmer is, like, you show up sometimes at campgrounds only to find out that half of it's closed and they have the gate blocking your access, and there's nothing you can do. So what I typically do is just film anyway what I can, and then just make a note in the video or the content that, yeah, unfortunately when we went, this is that bridge that's crossing the Yellowstone River, that when we do that, we unfortunately weren't able to get all of them, but we got what we could. It's the best you can do, not worth stressing it. But and here, I don't know how many miles it is to get to the actual campground. It's going to be a left turn, I believe, and I think this one's off of a river. I don't want to go as far as to say it's the Yellowstone River or a river, maybe it's a creek, but I do want to say this is one that has, if I'm not mistaken, a campground kind of built near a stream of some sort. And if there's fishing there, that might be a good one for anglers, but I don't want to make promises until I do more research. But on CampVue, the app, I do have a page that shows activities. So if fishing is one, we'll have a little icon that under activities that says there's fishing there. So you can always, when we upload this to the app, you'll be able to see the various activities that can be done around that area. Looks like this is a bison crossing, so we might have a good chance at seeing some out this ways. But there are also large, what I assume are glacial leftovers from glaciers, just random boulders spread throughout the landscape. So that makes it a little difficult to spot bison, because if they're far enough away, they're going to look like a boulder too, especially if they're laying down, which they oftentimes do. I don't actually see any at the moment, but we could be staring at them right in the face, and with the sun shining back at us, I probably wouldn't know. So maybe one of you will call out in the comments, oh yeah, there was a bison right there. Duh, didn't you see it? There's something going on here. I think it's just kids playing on large boulders, but there's oh wait, I see a whole bison herd. There is a big herd over there laying down, and there's a bunch of people. I think everybody's staying far enough away from it. You know what I'm gonna do maybe is, I think I gotta go back this way when we're done. So on the way back, maybe if the parking situation looks pretty decent like it did now, I'll stop. And I doubt that herd's gonna go far. But they were all just lounging out there like I was describing, so. Okay, well, I'm gonna just try to find my campground here. This is the Lamar River. And I'm gonna, what is going on here? Is there an animal on the road or something, or what? Oh yeah, there's a bison right in the middle of the road. Oh my God. It's coming straight to us too. Well, here's our excitement for the day. Hopefully it doesn't want to fight with Slim. How could you ask for a better moment here? Hopefully the GoPros don't act up and they stay on. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna get my camera ready here. We're doing all things rolling here, but I don't know. It's nowhere we can go. Dude, you're putting on a show for our audience. You're the Cactus Atlas, buddy. Don't get mad at my truck though, please. I think he's enjoying just holding things up. Don't you dare look at me. Ooh, yuck, you got snot dripping out your nose. Wow, what a treat. What an absolute treat. And we didn't even have to get out of the car. Like, that's the type of traffic jam I'm good with, because like, you don't have a choice. You have to stop in that case. So that's one of the exceptions to the rule, I'd say. But I was about to start getting annoyed. I just thought somebody had just stopped for no reason. And cars were blocking my view, and then I started to go to pull around or to see what was going on, and I see this big brown mass walking towards us. That made my day. That actually made my day. It makes this whole video worth it. I'm making my way to the campground down this road. Everybody's going this way, and there's a baby bison and a bull. I think a bull. Let's take a look. Look how cute that is. Can you see it? It's a little one right there. And then the big one right there. They make little grunt noises. You hear the little baby going, "Arr." They don't pay any mind. That's right, this is my hill. I'm just kidding, you would make quick work of me. So I guess if you like bison, this area near Slough Creek is where it's at. All right, so now that was kind of an impromptu stop. I wasn't planning on filming during this drive, but there's been a surprise around every corner up here. Well, this sucks. This is actually the very first time that I've been denied entry into a campground. I think it's BS, if you want to know the truth. I really wasn't denied entry. He said I could go park up here at this cul-de-sac and like walk around, but I think it's to me it's not the same. It's not what I need for my app, so it's not going to work, unfortunately. But I talked to a ranger first, and the ranger was totally cool about it. He's like, oh yeah, like absolutely. He's like, are you gonna camp here in the future? And I said I'd love to. It's always booked. But then I guess it was the campground host is like, well, hold on. It's kind of dusty on these roads. I don't want you driving in there. It's like, go ahead and park over there and you can walk around and check it out. So I'm not doing it, I guess. This one is been removed, but I guess if any of them need to come off. So it wasn't like an issue of like, you're not allowed to go or anything like that. It was just, I guess, one person's opinion. So, and I drive like 5 miles an hour through it, so I can tell you, looking in my rear view window, there's no dust being kicked up at all. So the main thing, and I've explained this to the rangers when I've come through, when I've had to ask and say, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, is this okay? You know, the problem that I'm trying to help solve is, like, if you are booking a site and you go to recreation.gov, I've talked about this before, they take a photo of the site, but they pretty much like focus on the picnic table and fire ring. So that tells you nothing. It tells you absolutely nothing. It doesn't tell you if you could get a trailer in there, an RV. It doesn't show you how close the neighboring sites are. You don't get all that information, so that's what I'm trying to help with. Because to some people that's very important, as I've been finding on our feedback. So people are very appreciative of it, so I know it works, and I know I'm not the only one that thinks that way. All right, well, we're gonna pull over here soon, and I think this is where the herd was earlier. I wonder if the herd moved on and that's why everybody gravitated back that way. We'll see. So I decided to pull over since we came all this way out this way anyway, and the herd is over here. We're gonna check it out. I heard a grunt behind me, and then this thing showed up.
Maschio.
Cazzo,
Ali!
vuol dire attraversare la strada però.
Raga, sta muggendo.
Definitely keeping my distance here. I don't think it has any interest in us, but a couple of times it looked and kind of slowly started walking towards us. Barely. Wasn't sure. It probably wasn't, but I'm not messing around with that. Anyway, that one I think is gonna go rejoin its herd. There's some rolling around in the dirt over there too. There it goes. It says, I'm gonna go have fun. I wouldn't recommend messing with those things. They can run faster than you, and they're a lot more nimble than you might think. But I think some people think they're cuddly because they seem docile. They seem really, when we saw the one walk by the truck, it seemed so gentle. Didn't want any problem, but if you go out and try to pet it, I don't think the results are gonna be too pretty. You'll see lots of warnings about that though, of course, here in the park. But you'll see somebody on the news. It seems like every year there's somebody that pays no mind to that and thinks they're the Bison whisperer or something, and then ends up getting severely injured or worse. All right, well, we got to see some cool stuff there, so I'd say overall it was a success, despite not getting one of my Yellowstone campgrounds, like one of the smallest and far out ones. So like I said, probably not the end of the world from a business perspective, but from a completionist perspective, a little disappointed, but by the time we get up the road, I will have forgotten about it. All right, I think now I'm just gonna keep an eye out for the views, the pullouts, and we're just gonna enjoy this scenic drive throughout this section of the park, as we have been doing. Over here is one of the things that I wanted to see, actually. It said petrified tree. Now I come from the state where we have the Petrified Forest National Park, so to me, if this is just one petrified tree, to those that have been to the petrified forest, maybe you won't be impressed, but I do like me a good piece of petrified wood, I must say. Wow, beautiful little meadow. Some wildflowers sprinkling throughout it too at this location. All right, let's go see this thing here. This is weird. So you can see what we're gonna do. There's this trail that walks up that way, and see that like standing up petrified trunk? So the sign back there says this is a old redwood, a petrified redwood tree that got buried by a volcanic eruption. Similar to when you go to Petrified Forest National Park, think a lot of those were washed into streams and mud and covered in volcanic ash. So kind of a similar story, but it didn't say anything about why it's standing upright. And that to me is weird. We're almost at the top though, that was easy. I'm curious about this. I wasn't expecting, I thought it'd just be a log or a portion of a log, but not something standing upright like that. I was chatting with some folks over here and we were surmising is that in its original position standing up, and the consensus seems to be yes. And the gentleman was telling me about some hike, some high elevation hike, Lamar Valley or something like that, where there are 3 standing up like that over there. But they pointed out like the picture down here is like, they said it was over 100 years old and the thing was standing up then too. That's feasible. I just have never seen that. I'm, at the Petrified Forest National Park. I can't recall a single standing up tree. They're all like on their side, thousands of them. So that coming here to see that is actually a treat. If it's true that it's still just upright from when it got buried in volcanic ash and it was like that and it just got uncovered and it's still standing today naturally without the assistance of man, that is really cool actually. So I'm really happy I came to see this. But I'm gonna have to do research. Unless I just glanced over some information that said it, I didn't see anything that indicated if it's in its natural position or was stood upright by somebody, That was really cool. I'm leaving here just thinking about that. And I didn't see any evidence to suggest that it was like propped up like that. If it was, there was no like, I didn't see any like braces or anything holding it up. I think it very well might be in its original position like that. And that's like really, I love petrified woods. I love like entire logs when you can see them. And here you get that, but you still see it standing up. It just gives it more of that connection. When you're at the petrified forest, you could see like the shape of where the bark was and stuff, and that gives it a lot of realism. But seeing it upright is a treat. That was really cool. I hope it's true that it's in its original position, because I know that the people's hypothesis back there was, well, the picture from 100 years ago shows it upright, therefore it's upright. I would say, trying to be scientific about it, I would say people 100 years ago would be more inclined to interfere with the natural placement of things and do something like stand it upright than we would today. Today it's like leave no trace, right? And don't touch, don't mess with anything. But 100 years ago, all bets were off. It was probably more about somebody making a profit. But once again, it seems completely feasible to me that I don't see why not. I don't see why, a volcanic eruption couldn't have covered a standing tree. And then it just got unburied over time. So if this is like Mythbusters, I'm just gonna kind of give it, like, I don't see why it's not feasible, but I didn't see anything that definitively said it one way or another. And on my vast adventuring throughout the West, trying to discern legend from fact and all sorts of things, it can get cloudy sometimes is all I'm saying. So, but what does my gut tell me? My gut tells me it's still upright, and it's been upright the whole time. Isn't it interesting how we're in Yellowstone, but I don't think we've seen a single steam vent, fumarole, geyser, anything up in this area. Yet it's still a fantastic national park. I just love the views in this place. It's just enormous. And this area might be one of the best demonstrations of that, I thought, so. And I just pulled over to get situated to figure out my next spot. Mammoth Campground is off to our right down that hill. And we'll talk about what I thought about that one. That was one of the big ones that I needed to get done, and it's done! Yeah! That was a fairly easy one. I had to actually make 3, or I guess 2.5 passes because it's a one-way loop. And then they split it. They split the one way. So there's a tent camper row, and then then the main one that goes all the way on the outside. Then there's another street that cuts through the middle that has one site on it, site number 24.
Feet, slide left to stay on US 89.
So I had to do a couple passes through it, but just as I've been saying, it's like 1:30 in the afternoon and most of the campsite was vacant. All right, we're here in like this main area, like near Mammoth. The Mammoth area of Yellowstone. But I'm trying to get out of here without dying or killing somebody else. Like running over somebody is what I mean. This is one of those really pedestrian heavy areas. A lot of historic buildings here and stuff, by the way. A lot of administration, hotels, visitor center, restaurants, you name it. But what I think I want to do is just get out of here because of that. Up there in that hill, all that white stuff up there is like probably one of the most beautiful spots, or used to be one of the most beautiful spots, where there are just these terraced like mineralized like hot pools and dripping pools and all this stuff, but it changes over time. So when I was here about, I don't know, a couple of years ago, most of the stuff is dead. It doesn't run anymore. There was no water. So they built all this infrastructure, all of these walkways that go up there. And now it's like, I don't even know. Maybe I didn't explore it fully enough, but it was pretty much a dud, a big dud. So it's like this beautiful, my impression is it's this beautiful spot that used to be like maybe one of the prime spots in the park, but all of the geothermal stuff underground has changed. I guess the water doesn't flow where it used to, and all of these like fountains kind of stopped. So I guess I need to rewind because I wanted to talk about my impressions about Mammoth Campground driving through it. It's one of the big ones here in Yellowstone, the National Park campground, official NPS managed campground. And I liked it. There were some sites that I noticed that had views looking way out into like that valley in the mountains, like towards like a little bit further in the back, that I thought were primo. So it was like, I'd stay there. Not my favorite campground of all time. I tend to like the ones that are deeper in the woods like I have now, where it's a lot cooler, a lot more shade. But overall, yeah, that seemed like a legit, like, nice choice. And every time the times I make reservations and I look up here, I'm always checking there, and it's very often booked up, as you might know if you've planned a trip out here. But if I was planning a trip here and I wanted to kind of move from section to section of the park and spend time in the northern park and have access to a lot of convenience, restaurants, grocery store type places, every service you would need, Mammoth would be a great choice if you don't want to rough it too much. Just finished Indian Creek Campground, the only one I didn't get was Slough Creek, but I got all I think the most important ones in my opinion, so very happy. That's a major milestone. The Yellowstone campgrounds, at least the ones that you can reserve on recreation.gov. So maybe I will do a drive-through of Canyon Campground later if I have time, the one that I'm staying in, the private campground. But beautiful creek, guys fishing down there. But overall, I like that campground a lot. I would say it might be, trying to like rank them in my mind just for like the overall setting, this one's towards the top of my list. I like the campground, like just the setting, better than Mammoth. You got some woods, some trees, but Not as dense as where I'm staying. And then what else? Tower Falls, earlier this morning I liked, except I think I said it earlier, the thing that it hurts it a little bit is it's really hilly. And a lot of the sites are not level, although I did see tent pads that were kind of level in most, if not all, the sites, but the tent pads look pretty small. My tent would be pushing it. Probably would have to overflow out of the pad if I put the rain fly on and set it up the way it was meant to be set up. So I would say maybe out of all of them, Indian Creek might, just first impressions as far as it goes, might be my favorite. I imagine Slough Creek probably would have been my favorite if I got to see it, but that's okay. Interestingly though, I would say the campground that I'm staying at right now, Canyon Campground, the Xanterra Campground, is my favorite of all of them. I never thought in a million years I would say that, but it's such a fantastic little campground. I shouldn't say little, it's a big campground, but it's just quaint. It's got the shade, it's got really good access to any service you would need. So a nice combo of all of that stuff. I do want to at least see one geothermal feature, and I know I have got some choices coming up. I think there's one right over there, in fact. I want to say, yep, we've seen this before on my last trip, and it's a good example of just a really quick, easy stop where there's usually not a lot of people, and you can see some geothermal stuff and maybe even smell some geothermal stuff. But I'm gonna probably avoid like the really crowded, popular areas that have that stuff. But of course now everybody's filing in behind me. So Clearwater Springs. Look at the beautiful purple wildflowers. I don't know if those are lupins or what they are. There's a big horsefly on my camera. There's more on this side too. So if you look down here, I don't remember what the state of this looked like last time I was here, but there were some bubbling, like hot spring type things here, but I see a little bit of movement down there, but it's not like what I remember. Maybe like right where they're looking is the spot. There's actually a little bit of steam coming out of this one. I love how emerald green, like some of that stuff growing in there, makes that water look. Or that creek look. It's beautiful. You can see right there too, another little bubbling spring there. I imagine that's very hot, so it probably would burn you if you touched it. But evidence of a giant supervolcano and magma chamber beneath our feet. But I do like spots like this just because they're not as frequently traveled, and now you can see the folks had briefly come down here. They didn't stay long, and I got the whole thing now to myself. Not that it's like, woo, this is the most amazing thing you've ever seen in your life, but when you combine it with the aesthetic of the landscape, the lushness, and then just seeing these little bubbling things, I think it's cool. I enjoy all that, like it, and then the peace and quiet that comes with it, compared to going to like Old Faithful, which is spectacular. To me, Old Faithful is, do it at least once in your life, but I can't imagine, even though it's one of the cooler things to see for sure, it's just that many people just kind of takes away from moments like this. The more I scan the landscape too, the more it's hard to see today. The wind's blowing pretty fast, but there's steam coming out of the ground in all sorts of places here. You just have to kind of look carefully, but then you'll notice it. But I think the wind's blowing so fast that it makes it harder to notice. All right, let's get back onto the main road and see what the next ones are. I know there's one called Frying Pan Springs that should be coming up soon, which is another one we actually stopped and saw. Another small little stop like this. And I thought it was pretty cool. That one is a little bit more violent in terms of the bubbling and stuff. Nothing like visually like, whoa, compared to some of the other things you'll see. But for whatever reason, I remembered I liked it, and it's on the route. I am curious, like there, to compare to see if my memory matches what I see. Alright, we found Frying Pan Springs. And that's a very short walk down this walkway, if I remember correctly. I think there's somebody down here, but maybe we'll trade spots. I remember this was aptly named, because it kind of reminded me of a frying pan. Let's see if it's the same this time. Things change quickly here in the landscape, so you never know. Ooh, I smell sulfur, so I smell my first feature. I came here to see that, but instead we get this. A bison just chilling here in the warmth and the steam, which they apparently tend to do. I've read about that. So don't burn, I guess they don't burn themselves. I guess they're smart enough not to fall through the ground. That's fantastic. I guess they don't mind the stench. It's the bog of eternal stench over here. I'd say this is selfie worthy, wouldn't you? I don't recall these trees had fallen over last time, but you see how that really, like that boiling back there, kind of underneath the trees and a little bit more out there. It does to me resemble a frying pan. It looks hot. And beyond the bison, there's another big pool over there, but I just think they like to stay warm. I've seen pictures of them in the wintertime, just all hanging out near these features, so. Well, what a treat, what a treat. One treat after another. I didn't plan that, anybody. That just happened. I've talked about this in other videos, that if you've ever been around these things, you'd know the smell. It's a very sulfuric, kind of a egg, like rotten egg kind of smell that you get, and almost like a briny, like sometimes when you go to the beach and you have that briny, stinky smell. Combination of that, like rotten eggs and brine, is how I would describe it. And I don't know how our friend down there would describe it, but that's cool. That made my day. Thank you. Well, that was unexpectedly cool. I thought we'd just go see Frying Pan Springs this year, see what it's like, and we got the bison. How cool. But I was about to say though, I've seen so many bison on this trip. If you haven't seen it, I went to a place called Antelope Island off of Salt Lake. And that place is known for bison, and we saw bison galore. And then we saw bison on the way to our attempt to film Slough Creek. Then we saw the herd of bison, now this bison. So I guess I'm starting to say this bison novelty is gonna start to wear off soon, I think. We've seen so many. That was probably my favorite sighting though, to see one hanging out by a hot spring, you know, just because it's probably relaxing, it likes the warmth. And it's kind of fun to see that. back on the home stretch. This is basically familiar territory the way we came in yesterday, in fact. So we're now retracing common footsteps heading towards Canyon Village, a few miles up this way. I think what I'm gonna do is just make a beeline for the shower facility. I've got all my toiletries in here, I got change of clothes in here. So I'm gonna, it's 3 o'clock. I wouldn't imagine it's crowded, but who knows. And then after that, I might look into what it takes to do laundry in there. And then I could maybe back clips up while I wait, I don't know. Shower first, then I'll decide that, and then dinner. I'm still back and forth. I might just make something at the campsite. Since I've got the firewood, you know, I need to start a little earlier than I did yesterday. Not that I have a really intensely long day tomorrow. I think we have a couple campgrounds I gotta knock out tomorrow. I gotta review that, but we're basically gonna be driving from up here to Grand Teton technically, but the northern side at Flag Ranch is the headquarters at Flag Ranch. I think is the facility I'm staying at tomorrow. And it's another one that I believe has showers and laundry, but I think it is an NPS managed campground. You can reserve it on recreation.gov, in other words. And it's a pretty big one, so. But it's nice when you're camping in the campground that you're going to do your work in, because you're already there, and you have a lot of opportunities to decide when the best time to do stuff is. Well, I'm back. I got my shower, and then I went across the street to get something to eat just to save time, and it started raining, so I felt justified in that. Probably going to rain a little bit more, and basically just went and sat down in one of the establishments over there, and you sit at a table and it's 25 minutes goes by, almost a half an hour, and the server nobody even makes eye contact with me. It's like you don't exist. There were a lot of frustrated customers, and to me, I don't want to blame the staff, but you know, maybe you need to staff it up more or something like that. Like, one of the servers was also playing bartender, making drinks for people, even though there was a bartender behind the counter also. It just didn't make sense. So like, I'm not gonna sit around a half an hour and have nobody pay any attention at all, not even come over, give me a menu, nothing. So screw that, I left. I can't recommend going over there, the place that I showed you. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. All right, so now we're gonna boil some water, and I'm gonna make this one of these dehydrated meals that I still have from last year. It says it's good until 2029, so 3-bean chili mac. So we're gonna do that, and then I didn't want to make a mess. I don't want to have to do dishes because they don't have a utility sink in this restroom. They have one way over that way, and I don't think there's really parking, so I didn't see. So I'd have to like walk pretty far to do dishes and haul all my stuff over there, and I still need to do laundry. That's really the key issue. It's not the fact that I have to haul my stuff over there and do dishes. It's more of a time concern. So I think I'm just gonna err on the side of doing something simple. Just boil water, pour it in a bag, stir it up, close it, and dump it in a paper bowl. Doesn't get much easier than that. Really, no dishes needed, and that should save time. Now these things are not bad, and they're really easy. Basically just tear open the pouch, add 1 1/3 cups of boiling water, stir it well, and zip it back up and let it stand for 10 minutes. And that's it. Then you open it, and then usually, I think if I remember, I would eat it out of the bag. But today will be fancy, and I brought the fine chinette. So here's the final product. It looks okay on the surface. It's got beans in it, it's got corn, like 2 different types of beans. I think white beans and pinto beans, it looks like. or kidney beans rather, I should say. And like macaroni noodles, corn, and then some spice. Not hot spice, just I guess some flavor, but let's see how it actually tastes. It smells like normal. It smells like a chili mac type of thing. It's got a peppery smell to it. Kind of a southwestern smell. But it smells good. It's definitely kept. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, on the flavor scale, it doesn't punch you in the face or anything, but it's not bad at all. Tastes like a fresh meal, you know, on the road when you're camping and you don't want to do dishes. These things are fantastic for that. My only, oh, there you go. One of the beans is a little, I don't want to say crunchy, but dry. It didn't get the full water. If you look at the bottom of the crease, sometimes the seasoning and stuff gets stuck down there, and when you pour it out, you still see dry stuff. So try to make sure when you stir it, you got to get deep down in there on those things to try to get all that stuff up. I didn't do a great job on that one, but well, here we are again. I wanted to use up the rest of my wood because I don't know if I'm gonna have room for it when everything's fully packed tomorrow when I leave. But I think the rest of my evening is looking like I'm gonna set up my chair here next to the fire, get my iPad out and back clips up, basically. All of the CampVue drive-thrus especially. I'd say today was a successful day. Got a lot of things done, got a lot of big ticket campgrounds knocked out. So very pleased. And I ended up doing a drive-thru of this campground. I figured even if they don't do reservations where you can pick a site, I figure you can still review sites on my app. So this will allow people to review sites, and who knows, maybe you could make a request when you come to book a site and say, hey, I want site so-and-so. It's already cooling off, so feeling the heat of the campfire on my shins feels really nice. Well, I've eaten, and I've eaten more since what I showed you. I've been raiding my mobile pantry for stuff, so I think I've eaten enough for one day, and tomorrow is a new day. So we're gonna be packing up here tomorrow, and then I drive down to Grand Teton, but I still have another Yellowstone campground to hit on the way there, and I noticed that tomorrow is a really big, probably the pinnacle of the trip, I would say, of campgrounds, including Coulter Bay, another gigantic one. So gonna be a busy one. So with that being said, I got things to do, folks. I'd love to have you here with me, sitting in a chair around the campfire to share stories and things, but I unfortunately have to back up more clips. It never ends here, man, I'm telling you. I keep my eye on the prize down the road. That's how I get through it, but having fun doing it too. So anyway, thanks for joining me again on another day of my epic northern tour for CampVue. It's been great having you along, and see you on the next one.